Hello. Hello. Thank you for joining us for the virtual presentation for the preferred concept public meeting for the Van Ness Commercial Corridor. Our third public meeting for this project will be on April 23rd, 2022, and we're recording this presentation for those who can't make that or would like to view the presentation after the meeting. I'll introduce our team. My name is Ted Van Houten. I'm the project manager from DDOT for this project. Also from the DDOT side are Jamie Ernst and Ed Stoloff from DDOT's Planning and Sustainability Group. And then also on our team is Yvonne Thalwell and Guillerme Tesfamichael from DDOT's Infrastructure Project Management Division. This project constitutes the concept design phase of the project, and Yvonne and Guillerme, their team will be taking the future phases of the project, which are design and construction. We also have a number of consultants who are working with us on this project, led by Wallace Montgomery and Ray Moravec, who you'll hear from in a little bit. He is the lead from the consultant side, and then we also have other sub-consultants on the team, Tina Boyd and Associates, Lee and Associates, and Jacobs. Our agenda for the presentation today is we'll do introductions and talk about the purpose of the meeting on April 23rd. We'll discuss the project goals and objectives. We'll discuss the schedule. We'll discuss our approach to concept development. We'll walk through the preferred concepts. We'll talk through next steps. We'll show you the Title VI questionnaire, which is one way that you can use to provide comments. And then we'll also have my contact information at the end, and you can contact me anytime with questions or comments about this project. So the purpose of the meeting today, the purpose of this recording is to present and to receive comments on the preferred concept developed by DDOT for Connecticut Avenue and Van Ness Street, covered as part of this project. So our goal and objectives for the project are, this is our project study area. It's Connecticut Avenue between Van Ness Street and Albemarle Street. For Connecticut Avenue, it is not the roadway. The roadway is covered in the Connecticut Avenue Reversible Lane project, which continues both north and south of our study area. For Connecticut Avenue, we're just concerned with the area between the curb line and the property line, which often is the building face. So the sidewalks, the tree boxes, the areas in front of buildings that are landscaped, or in some cases are paved over with concrete or brick. Also included in our project is Wyndham Place Northwest on both sides of Connecticut Avenue. And Wyndham Place on the east side is a key link to the Soapstone Valley Park. And then Van Ness Street between Connecticut Avenue and Reno Road. And for Wyndham and Van Ness Street, the project includes both the sidewalk area but also the roadway for both Wyndham and for Van Ness. So that's a difference from Connecticut, where the roadway itself is not a part of this project. Our project is completely within DC's Ward 3 and also within the current boundaries of Advisory Neighborhood Commission 3F. So our goals for the project are to develop a concept plan that promotes multimodal transportation safety and creates community-friendly spaces along the project area. We'll be presenting a concept plan that embraces the positive qualities of the commercial corridor and incorporates involvement and comments that we get from community members, residents, other stakeholders. And then we'll be setting a path forward for future phases of the project, which will cover final design and construction. And part of that is providing a detailed cost estimate, and which will be helpful for the future phases of the project, which we'll discuss in a little bit. The objective of the project is to propose improvements to the streetscape in the Van Ness Commercial District to promote multimodal transportation safety and create community-friendly public spaces along the project area. The schedule of the project, this has been a 12-month project. We started in June 2021 with project scoping, and then we had our first public meeting at the end of June 2021 where we introduced the project to the public. And then throughout the summer, we did data collection and analysis. In October 2021, we had a design charrette. We had another public meeting where we showed our draft concept and got comments from the public on that. And then since that meeting, we've been further refining the concept. And today we are presenting the preferred concept, which we'll be sharing as part of this presentation. We'll also be providing it on our webpage, and that will be available to you anytime. And our project will wrap in June when we will take any comments that we hear from this and anything that we incorporate from that will be included in that final concept, and then that will complete the concept design phase of this project. And I will turn it over to Ray to go through the concept in more detail.
Thank you, Ted. And as part of the concept development phase, we basically broke the project in order to present it better to you into the following segments. Really looking at Connecticut Avenue from Albemarle to Yuma, from Yuma to Wyndham, from Wyndham to VZ, and from VZ to Van Ness, sort of the 4 segments there, the 4-block area. We do include as Ted mentioned, Wyndham Place on both sides of Connecticut Avenue, and that will be shown within the concept plans for the first 4 segments. And then along Van Ness, we actually have 3 plans to show the area from Connecticut Avenue to International Drive and the section from International Drive to Reno Road. So we'll be going through that as part of the preferred concept mapping you'll see in a moment. Just to remind everyone of the approach we've been undertaking, and this is some of the information we presented back in October as we're working through this during the charrette phase. We're really looking to have the 3 amenity zones here, the curb amenity zone for that area that's right next to the roadway, and then the section for a clear sidewalk, trying to have that consistent sidewalk area, trying to maintain at least 10 feet for the entire width, and then having the area for the building amenity zone that backs between the sidewalk and the different businesses, residents, etc., along the area. So that's the approach we've taken with this concept development. The typical sections for this are shown here to sort of give you a representation of what we're looking at. This shows Connecticut Avenue, where we are proposing the 10-foot sidewalk, and you can see how it goes up to the amenity zone, where it would either reach the steps to get you to the building area, or may walk straight across through those flat areas that are there to be consistent. And of course, having that separate curbside area with tree plantings or access to Connecticut Avenue as part of the concepts. And then there are a couple sections where we were only able to accommodate 8 feet, really just in that first block from just south of Albemarle. We'll show that in the preferred concepts, but this sort of represents that 8-foot section, just as a reminder. The materials that we're looking at along Connecticut Avenue, really trying to match a lot of what was done in front of UDC and having a consistency throughout, where we would be having the concrete pavers for the sidewalk area, and then some of these pedestrian crossover areas with the brick pavers in order to cross into the street between the tree pits. We're looking to have the consistency with the trash receptacles We are looking at replacing any older lighting with the twin globes that have been replaced in many locations along the corridor, as well as the same with some of the streetlight masting. For anything that's back by the building amenity zone, we'd be keeping that stainless steel finish for the access. And then, of course, putting in any standard bike racks and others with the standard black mat material. Along Van Ness, what's a little new from what was not shown during the design charrette, but sort of came out of that, was the consideration for a cycle track, a two-way cycle track on the south side by the embassy side along Van Ness, and keeping parking and access to the UDC side on the north. This typical section sort of shows that with the sidewalk and the cycle track, and we'll show that concept in more detail in a second with the plan view. But we're also looking at the concrete amenity for the sidewalk there, but we'd only have the single globe lights post to be consistent with what's along that section. And we are looking at some bollards for protection areas along the embassy area, and of course the consistency with any receptacles or anything that are placed within the area. To walk through the preferred concept, we're going to start at the north of the study area. This is Albemarle going south along Connecticut Avenue. And what you see here, just to highlight you, anything that is this dash are basically things that are in place today. Anything that is solid, like the sidewalk, this would be a new planting area, the sidewalk going across driveways. Those are things we're looking to add to enhance the corridor and have consistency along the corridor. So in this stretch, we're really keeping a lot of the plantings here, but we're only able to get an 8-foot sidewalk along this west side until you get to just past the entrance of the Days Inn. But we are looking to add in some planters boxes. There's a lot of good plantings in the north side. Putting the pedestrian walkway across the driveways so that the pedestrian emphasis is there from a safety standpoint and drivers are aware that they're crossing a pedestrian area. Adding in a few more planting areas, and we actually also are continuing that up along Yuma Street here, actually on both sides of Yuma, up to the alleyway with that concept. On the east side, putting in a couple separated planter boxes for the seating areas in front of the restaurants, having the 10-foot sidewalk, and we're actually looking to potentially relocate the bus stop that's sort of back in the sidewalk up to be a curb-facing stop consistent with the rest of the Connecticut Avenue corridor. A lot of this stays in place though, because a lot of Park Van Ness and other really match that theme already, and we'd be keeping that in place for this section of the corridor, but looking to carry that crosswalk across any of these areas where there might be a driveway crossing. Between Yuma and VZ, we are looking at actually doing a lot of improvements here along in front of the UDC Law Building, where we would put the 10-foot sidewalk going through, adding in a lot of planter blocks areas to separate, but keeping entrance to the businesses open. Once again, showing that crossing of the driveway, and then doing a little bit of a curb bump out here, sort of to protect the parking area and make it a little more pedestrian friendly for the crossing. On the east side, we are looking at a little planter box area here. The same thing with continuing that 10-foot sidewalk and really doing an adjustment to this entrance here, where there's a conflict right now with the delivery or drop-off area and the sidewalk. Many people actually walk through the parking area versus using the sidewalk. Well, we're looking to expand the sidewalk and make that blend together so that it's sort of a shared, but understanding the emphasis on pedestrians versus vehicular access. And then expanding some of the tree boxes as we get closer to the intersection at Wyndham. And I do want to get into that with Wyndham, but before I do, this shows a rendering of the 10-foot sidewalk with the planter box areas added in front of the law building. One of the things to emphasize is The DDOT will maintain sort of the trees in the tree pit, but any other plantings and other things within these areas would be something we'd be working to work with the community and the businesses to do those plantings as this moves forward in the next phase of design with any agreements or coordination that needs to occur. When we go from Wyndham Place down to VZ, we have one thing I want to emphasize is these improvements along Wyndham that we were talking about. And this actually is the access to Soapstone Valley Trails and the park. We really want to formalize this a little more, put in a formal crosswalk, and we're actually moving the ADA access a little further south. So it just improves and makes this more direct access and shown from a pedestrian standpoint. On the west side here, we're doing the tree boxes, expanding some of those, making this consistent, putting that 10-foot sidewalk area in so it's clear that that's the pedestrian area as we're in front of the metro, a little bit more green space, and just making a little more consistent with the rest of the corridor. We also are looking to minimize the width of the entrance here at VZ Terrace as you enter UDC. We are keeping sort of a driveway apron there, but not UDC's master plan calls for this to be more of a pedestrian area and not as vehicle friendly or as wide as it is today. So trying to reduce that as part of this effort, and that minimizes the crosswalk width, both here at VZ as well as crossing Connecticut Avenue a little bit. And then of course on the east side, we have this bump out here. We've removed the median area where the one tree had come down a couple years ago, extend the curb line out, expand the green space, and actually enhance the plantings along that side of Connecticut Avenue up to the metro station, and looking to remove or relocate the metro bus stop just a little bit further north so that it doesn't conflict with the sidewalk like it does today right in front of the entrance to the metro station. And then continuing the rest of the way down to Van Ness, really no improvements along this side. As I mentioned, UDC was sort of a model that was followed for how we want to be addressing this throughout. So we're really looking to apply that theme along those 4-block area. And then minor enhancements with some walkthroughs, the sidewalk again going across the driveways and making sure there's that consistency so that we understand that that is the pedestrian focus, and putting our 3 amenity zones in place. So that shows the concepts that we're looking at along Connecticut Avenue. And I want to then jump to Van Ness. And this is just a quick rendering to give you an idea of what we're proposing with the 2-way cycle track, the sidewalk area, and then of course parking next to UDC. And this is a concept plan showing that. So basically what we're proposing under the preferred concept is the removal of the median and the planting median, bringing the roadway to 1 lane in each direction with parking on the north side next to UDC, having that tree buffer, and then expanding to make sure it's a 10-foot sidewalk. On the side closest to the embassy areas, we're actually showing an 8-foot sidewalk along that entire length. There really aren't any access points. And then we have the cycle track occurring, and then continuing that up to the intersection. So sorry about that on the little clip. But that gives you an understanding, and then of course we'd be putting any markings and matching that with anything that's done along Connecticut Avenue as part of the reversible lane study. We are proposing narrowing and putting the crosswalks into the middle area here with UDC, and UDC is actually looking as part of their master plan of getting this down to 1 entrance instead of 2, so we look to minimize that in the future with coordination with them. Moving along Van Ness, heading west, you sort of see the cycle track continuing here in front of the embassy area. And then, of course, keeping that parking, the buffer area and the sidewalk along UDC and the elementary school. And that continues all the way through the intersection with International. And then transitions down to the intersection with Reno. And the one thing we want to highlight here is this planting area. You may notice today there are some concrete planters that are out there for extra protection for the Israeli embassy. We are actually proposing bollards along this stretch instead of those planter boxes, so that it makes it a little nicer, a little open section, and includes the cycle track then on the inside of that crossing, and provides that full connection from Reno Road all the way over to Connecticut. So from a cost standpoint, we're looking at the range of $2.3 to $2.8 million for Connecticut Avenue. For Van Ness, it's actually very similar in range, even with a little more enhancement, but a little bit smaller project area. These are preliminary costs only, and therefore construction only. This does not include any right-of-way or easement information or any cost for the final design phase prior to this being advertised for construction. That's a quick overview of the concepts. As Ted mentioned, they'll be available on the website for your review, and I'll turn it back to Ted to go through the next steps.
All right, thanks, Ray. So our next steps are, again, we have our public meeting on April 23rd, 2022, when we'll be sharing this with the public. And then we'll be refining the preferred concepts based on the comments that we heard at that public meeting, as well as people who are viewing this presentation and get us comments soon after that meeting. We also had an interagency group and an advisory committee group, and we'll be including any comments we hear from those that make sense. And then, so we'll be refining the preferred concept. We'll be finalizing cost estimates that Ray just discussed. We'll be preparing environmental documentation, which are the National Environmental Policy Act, which are, I think, the Form 1. And then after those are completed, we'll identify potential funding opportunities. That will likely happen. It may happen before, but it'll likely happen after June 30th of 2022, when this phase of the project ends. And once we have more funding, we will be able to complete the design phase of the project. I should note, again, we do not have funding for that right now. Next slide. So this project is federally funded, or future phases of this project are likely to be federally funded. So we are required to provide a Title VI public meeting questionnaire. This captures demographic information of people who are attending our meetings, and it also gives attendees an opportunity to provide comments on our projects. So with those forms, those forms come with the Ray, if you could go back just real quick. Those do come with a 30-day comment period. So after the 30-day comment period, we'll be taking everything we get and then aggregating the demographic information that we get from the responses. Okay. So there's a QR code which you are able to use. There's also a URL which you can use to access the Title VI form. And then if you have any other questions, and we'll be putting this recording on DDOT's YouTube page, and so if you could be reviewing, you could be looking at this months after we wrap the project, which is fine. But you can contact me anytime with comments or questions or updates on the project. Or if you want to be updated on the project, email me and I'll put you on a list. And once we start the next phase of the project, we can let you know. So that's all my contact information. If you want to find the documents that we'll be sharing in the meeting on April 23rd, or any of the other documents that we've done throughout this project, you can go to ddot.dc.gov, and you'll see a search bar at the top, and you'll be able to put, if you put in Van Ness Commercial Corridor Project, it will bring you to the webpage for this project on DDOT's website, and you should be able to find all the information you need. And with that, thank you for joining. Thank you for viewing this presentation. Again, if you have any questions, you can contact me. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you for viewing this presentation.